Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the FX Market Insight for Thursday, the 27th of August. All right, now, not a lot of change in what the currencies are doing. There's a little bit of dollar weakness creeping in. Just covering away here, first of all, US equity markets. Well, the NASDAQ up 2%. Well, this thing is on fire. The tech stocks going through the roof. Now, there is a few pairs still correlating with that, but what we're starting to see is the US Treasuries really having a close correlation with a lot of the pairs, right? Especially this risk on, risk off scenario. You got the yen crosses there really tuning in. Now, let's just come back to what's going on. Well, actually, let me just give you the US dollar because there's a few key things. Obviously, Hurricane Laura, there's the unrest in Wisconsin in the US as well, and a few other things going down. So just at the moment, right, if we're looking at the US dollar, still within recent ranges, nothing to get super excited about, except, really short-term momentum is down. This may be more to do with the hurricane as it approaches landfall in the US. So we'll see how that plays out. The dollar, well, it is, as you can see here, it's sort of going down against most pairs, right? The dollar block pairs going up and the dollar itself going down. Still early doors here in the Asian session, so don't get super pumped about that just yet. Now, the major pairs themselves, let me just bring you across to the charts. Okay, there's a few things, as I said, there's a short-term momentum at the moment, just setting a few pairs to the top side. We've just got Kiwi just flirting with a very short-term resistance line. We've got previous highs here just above these levels. So I don't think by any stretch is this a change in the overall sentiment of the Kiwi. If anything, it's just, normal trading activity or a bit of dollar weakness. And you can see the dollar yen, if I widen that out, it's still within recent ranges going back months, but it is sort of just drifting down through that short-term support. A little bit of a false break here in euro. It's steadied itself and coming back to 118.40. Big ranges here in sterling continue. And dollar CAD, right? This is the pair that I'd say most traders are looking at. See oil sitting at $43.37 now. That's putting downward pressure on dollar CAD, right? Oil goes up, the CAD appreciates. So, but with this, as this hurricane gets closer to landfall in the US, you'd think dollar CAD would already be below this. I think this is going to be a pretty good opportunity on a number of different situations, but I would expect oil to be higher by now. Obviously, it will depend on the destruction, but what we might see is a bit of a false break to the downside here, and then it whip back into play. If the media hype doesn't match the actual impact, and they're talking about it being unsurvivable and crazy, right? And that's the media going nuts. If that doesn't happen, then dollar CAD's going to fly through the roof, and oil's going to fall very quickly. So this is something you need to be aware of now. What I want to bring you back to is actually, if you've got Metastock, I think you have to be subscribed to the commodities. Okay, and what you can actually do is have a look at this hurricane. You can really blow this map up. If I just increase the size of that, where are we? I won't go to that just yet. But basically, you can see exactly what it's doing, what the impact is. You get a very good real-time gauge here. This is a pretty good setup. So I don't think it's going to miss too much, but it is going to be pretty important when it hits where that destruction is. So you can see the path of that as you go through. So with this being in play, okay, you've got to really be looking at the oil trade, right? CAD yen. Now, once again, like dollar CAD, it looks like to me that the massive destruction here is already factored into the currency pair. So I'd be looking, getting out of, or not taking my eyes off CAD yen just yet, but looking to, if I was long, having pretty tight stops on it, or if anything, looking to go short CAD yen as this thing hits landfall, right? So it's really going to depend on the level of destruction, and we'll see how that sort of plays out. Now, outside of that, right, we've got, let me just clear that writing stuff. So you come back to the general news, right? You're sort of looking for fundamental direction from the markets, right? And we know the macros aren't really coming into play. Well, that hurricane is a macro event for us. Okay, that's the way you should be thinking of it. Obviously, it's not a macro event, but it does have the same impact and gives us fundamental core direction. Now, that's why we're focusing on CAD and the CAD crosses, in particular CAD yen, the pure oil trade itself. And then outside of this is what else we've got going on. There's the usual political to and fro, as we're going to see over the coming months. You've also got the hurricane. You've got the unrest in Wisconsin. And now we've also got Powell, Jerome Powell. He's going to be speaking Thursday, later today. And what we're going to sort of see, like some people are saying they may come out and say that, CPI, they're going to let CPI go above 2% for some time before they change rates. Well, they said that about 6 months ago, maybe even longer. So that 2% threshold, and don't forget, you go back 6 months ago, inflation in the US is around 2.4%. They did nothing. They already told us that. So I'm just wondering if he's going to reiterate that, or what's going to happen, and what impact that has on the dollar, especially with the hurricane hitting landfall and other geopolitical issues in the States. It's a little bit tricky. To me, watching CAD and this storm is the most logical and interesting trade that you can be putting on this week. Okay, the other pairs, they're thrashing about. There's no major drive for me to be watching those things. So just keep an eye on that as we go forward, right? It's going to be pretty important as we go through this. And once again, if you look at the correlation matrix, obviously the treasuries looks like they're really coming into play. Make sure I'm on the right screen here. No, I'm not. Okay, so get into those, have a look. This is obviously for those traders who don't have MetaStock, right? You can't find out where the good trading opportunities are because it's very hard with one set of eyes to go across all financial instruments and work out where the focal point is. Okay, so to keep an eye on the equity markets. As I said, treasuries, the storm is obviously a very important sort of human event as much as one for the financial markets. The impact on oil, the Canadian dollar, and subsequent crosses. It's going to be pretty interesting as it goes forward. And that's pretty much it, guys. The rest of the currency pairs, you know what? I'm going to bring you back to the daily market insight. To me, they still aren't invigorating enough to get things going. Now, dollar yen, that'll be just going down or sideways. The rest of the pairs, we've just got levels there, but no real drive, right? We have to see something big on the dollar to get it moving. And that's where Jerome Powell comes into play. Obviously, the key central banker globally. Keep an eye on that. This symposium, it's going to be interesting to see what he says. And then following that, a couple of the other central bankers. But bear that in mind. It's going to be coming out probably as this hurricane hits the coast in the US. And that could really dilute what he says anyway. Anyway, we'll have to wait and see. My tip, keep an eye on CAD yen and dollar CAD. I think these things are overcooked at the moment, and I think we might see them reverse, especially if we don't see the massive destruction through the oil refinery fields. And if the US oil industry, refining industry, isn't destroyed or impacted, well, then these things should bounce pretty quick or reverse. All right, guys, have a good one. Cheerio.